Hello my friends and welcome to this week's Make and Take. This week we are making this adorable pizza book. Yes, oh my gosh, so much fun, so much fun. We are making my favorite flavor of pizza. Taylor and I always get pepperoni and black olives, and which I really like, and honestly the little olives are really fun to make out of paper. All right, so let's get started here. We have our little kit with all of our little bits and pieces. I did pre-cut out all the little olives and the pepperonis for you. To make the little olives, I used two sizes of hole punch, the 1/4 inch, which is the small hole, and a 1/2 inch, which is the large hole. To make the olives, what I do is I actually punch the small hole first and then the large hole. So let me see if I have my hole punch here and I can show you. Well, this is a slightly different size, but you're going to get the idea here. So in order to make an olive, what you do is you first have a 1/4 inch. So you make the small hole, and then you take the large circle punch and you line it up on top of that. Boop. Again, this is quite large, but then you punch that out and that gets the olive shape, which is pretty amazing. All right. Okay, so what we have here is we have some pepperonis, we have some olives. Some of your pepperonis might have a straight edge on one of them, and that's totally fine because we're going to be cutting up our pepperonis anyway to make them fit onto our slice of pizza. Okay, so here we go. We have all of our bits. All right. Okay, so in the little kit here, we have all of these little pieces of paper, and some of the paper has all of the paper is going to have this kind of brown triangle on them. One of them is actually going to have the traced stencil mark of the shape of the pizza. And you'll see there's a pencil mark there. That's the one that we were going to start with. Okay, so I'm going to put everything else to the side for just a moment. Oh my gosh, ingredients everywhere. This is a very important part of our pizza book. It is the bookbinding thread. I know that when we're first getting started and learning about things like bookbinding, that it sounds really intimidating and kind of scary, but I just want you guys to know that we're going to be doing bookbinding today, and it's actually not that difficult. It's pretty easy. All right, so what we're going to do here is we are going to take our scissors and we're going to cut just like this. All right, here we go. Just the triangle shape, and you're going to kind of follow the shape. When you get towards the top, you're going to round the edge. Do not cut into the fold. You want to make sure this stays folded. It's very, very, very important. There are also two tiny little holes. I know it's so hard to see from where you guys are up there. Those two holes are super important. You do not cut into those, okay? I'm going to round this little corner up here, and I'm going to just bring this right down here to finish off my pizza shape. All right, so now we have the shape of pizza. Okay, at this point, you can either trace your pizza shape onto all of the pages, or you can eyeball it and you can just use this as a guide and cut this out, or you can just cut them all and just hope it works out. Like you can get them out individually and then line them up. It won't be perfect that way, but it could be a little bit more interesting. Personally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up, and I'm actually going to use a pencil here. And I'm just going to trace what I just cut out onto the other 3 pages. All right, because I want to make sure that my pizza shape is pretty similar, but I'm actually going to cut all of these out at once. I don't know if you feel comfortable doing that, or if you have the hand strength to do it. I mean, I'm not saying that my hand's pretty strong, but I was able to cut through all of those no problem. But it's really up to you what you would like to do. I want you to be successful first and foremost. All right. Okay, so I'm going to cut those. Now for each one here, I'm not as worried about this part if it matches up, but I really need to round those edges off. Again, making sure I'm not cutting into those holes. So there are 2 holes on the fold lines of every single page, okay? So just be aware of that. So I'm just rounding that top little area there, and I'm going to round this one up here. All right. Oh, probably need to round that. Okay. All right. So once you have all of your pizza slices cut out, you're going to just slide these one right into the other, kind of like some spoons, and then you're going to fold those in half. Okay. So now you have your pizza shape. Oh, I see that one of my pizza shapes is not quite pointy enough. I can fix that. All right, there we go. Oh goodness, I just sneezed. Okay, So now that you have all of those cut out, what we're going to do is we're going to do some bookbinding, which I know again seems intimidating, but it's actually not as hard as you think. So what we're going to do is we are going to start from the outside, and we're going to go through all of these holes to the inside, and then from the inside back out, so the two tails we're going to tie into a bow. Okay? All right. So here we go. We're going to take our waxed linen thread and go through the first hole there, then the hole on the second page, then the hole on the third page, all the same on the same side. So I'm doing all of the holes on the right side at this point. And then once we have that through the last one, all of our pages are together. We're going to go to the inside. Once we get to the inside, we're going to pull that, but not all the way through. And now we're going to go back through the holes. These are the holes on the other side. So 1, 2, oh goodness. This is number 3. Oh gosh, there we are. And the last one, number 4. All right, so once you have all those in there, you make sure that this is pulled tight in the middle of our book. We're going to close the pages. When you get to the binding side here on the fold line, you're going to tie that into a knot. I would recommend doing it going under once and then going with your string again under, and that way when you tie it, it doesn't want to suddenly come untied, so you want to pull that tight. And then we're just going to do a single knot on the top, and just pull that really nice and tight, make sure it's nice and secure. All right, now we're just going to trim that. You don't need to trim it too close to the edge. We want at least a couple little tails, and then that way when we go to put our little, what do you want to call this, the edge of our binding on, we're going to cover that up. So it's not, this is the crust, to be perfectly honest, but for the book part, it's going to be the book binding part. All right, so we're going to put that on there. Okay, so before we do that, we're going to round all of these little corners. Just going to round all of those off. And then right here on the open side, the mouth side, I'm actually going to kind of squigglify it a little bit to make it look a little bit more crusty. More like a piece of crust. All right, there we are. Okay, now we're going to use glue. I'm going to use white glue, but this is a type of PVA, which is actually a type of bookbinding glue. You can use any white glue that you have at home. Elmer's glue is just fine. People that use Elmer's glue, I find, tend to end up having the warping happen on the paper, and that's because Elmer's glue is really wet, and so the paper warps really fast. So if you're using Elmer's glue, use a very small amount of Elmer's glue, okay? All right, once you have all of the glue down there, you're going to stick your pizza edge into the crust and fold that over. Press really good, make sure that's nice and secure. All right, now it's time for the ingredients. So you can kind of start doing a little layout here. I'm gonna take one of my crusts and I'm actually gonna cut that in half. This little half piece I'm gonna kind of tuck right underneath that crust I just put there. And I think this one, I'm gonna cut off the edge, and I want that to kind of be off the edge a little bit. I love that. Oh, maybe I want this one actually to be a full piece. So I'll put this off edge one maybe over here. All right, I think that looks great. And maybe I'll do one more piece down here, just like a little partial piece. All right, I love that. Yes, and of course you're gonna have extra pepperonis, which is totally fine. I had to give you extra ingredients. How cute would it be if you put some ingredients in your book too? Oh my gosh, so fun. Okay, so I'm gonna have our little half pepperoni, kind of tuck that up there. And then we have this pepperoni, and that will go here. So I'm making sure it's flush with the edge of my top pepperoni piece, or my top slice of pizza, rather. All right, and then this little guy, we'll put this right down here along that edge. Excellent, excellent, yes. Oh my gosh, it looks just like a pizza, you guys. Ah, I love it so much. Okay, now I'm going to make some cheese. So you might have these pieces in your kit here that are a little bit thicker. So I'm just gonna cut these a little bit thinner to make them look more like pieces of shredded cheese. I'm cutting these to be about 1/8 of an inch. Some slices are gonna be bigger than others, but you want at least a nice amount of cheese. All right, look at all those little pieces cut up, nice and thin. Or if you'd like nice thick pieces of cheese on your pepperoni pizza, that's totally fine too. All right, and you know, if you have other ingredients, you're like, oh, I really love green peppers on my pizza, or I really love mushrooms on my pizza, you could absolutely cut out little shapes of things and add them to your pizza. This is just my favorite flavor of pizza, but you can do whatever you like. Okay, what I'm gonna do here is I'm actually gonna do just a couple little kind of dots kind of here and there for my cheese, because I don't want there to be too much glue, and I'm gonna kind of sprinkle my cheese on, haha, LOL, onto my pizza here. Kind of just press that down everywhere. I know it's a little bit of a mess, but I don't want, that's why I'm using a small amount of glue, because I really don't want there to be, I don't want this to be a gluey pizza. I want to make sure that it's a delicious looking pizza. I'm just gonna stick those in there. Okay, now I'm gonna shake off the excess to see where I might still need some cheese. Okay, all right, looking good. I'm gonna do a few dots here and there in my empty spots. I mean, I don't need to fill up every single empty spot with cheese. It's just the most of the empty spots I want to have cheese. And then we're gonna do the olives at the very, very, very end. The olives is a great time to add in or to cover up any areas that are maybe a little bit too gluey. You can use your olives to kind of cover up those areas. All right. Okay, so I do know that I have some cheese hanging off the edge, so I'm actually gonna take my top slice of pizza, flip this over, and you can see where any cheese is kind of hanging off. I'm gonna use scissors to just kind of trim that. All right, there we go. Okay, all the excess cheese I'm gonna put to the side. Maybe I'll add more later. All right, now I'm going to add in my olives. So what I'm going to do on my olives, I'm gonna bring all of the olives, yes. I'm gonna bring them all close to me. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna take my glue, because I have this really fine line applicator to get just a small amount of glue. And I'm actually going to do a tiny dot onto each piece of olive, onto each olive slice. I don't need to go all the way around and make a ring of glue on the backside of each olive, because a tiny dot is good enough to hold it in place. Sometimes when we're using glue, we think, oh, I need to make sure the entire thing is glued down. And maybe it depends on the project. Maybe you do want that. But for the purposes of getting this book together, it's actually going to save you some time to just put a single dot on, and then you can just flip your little olive slices over and just stick them directly onto your slice of pizza. I'm even gonna have some of my olive slices hanging off of the edge, and I'm gonna trim them just like I did with the cheese. Oh, and of course I have to get some olive slices in here that are kind of tucked underneath the crust. Yes, look at that. There we go. Again, have some olives hanging off of the edge that I'm gonna trim. I wanna make sure I get a nice amount of olives. You know, if you've ever had olives on pizza, which hopefully you have because it's so good, you might find that the olives are not evenly placed. So maybe you'll adjust that on your slice of pizza, but if they're not all perfectly evenly symmetrical on your slice, don't you worry about it, because that's how real life is with pizza. Okay, so once you have those all glued down, we're gonna flip this upside down again, and I'm just gonna trim all of the excess olives that are hanging off of the edge of my pizza book. All right, and there we have our pizza book. Yes, oh my gosh, you guys, I love this so much. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think it looks an awful lot like a piece of pizza. So I hope you guys enjoy that, friends. All right, hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.